One stressful thing about modern Pro Tour play is that the set is only out for like 3 weeks before the Pro Tour. So unlike in the olden days when you had a pretty good feel for a set before you had to draft it in the Pro Tour, now it's like a sprint to get in enough drafts to feel prepared and prepare in the constructed format, given the new cards and maybe new bannings. So I never feel like I've gotten enough drafts in.
We usually do 2 to 3 a day of live drafts as a team. You know, people rotate in and out based on randomness or if somebody has something else to do. Not that there's much else to do, but people who are here the whole time probably have access to something like 35 or 40 drafts in terms of doing them themselves or watching them.
There's really no like amount of drafts that I want to do. I just want to draft an amount of times until I feel comfortable.
I think we already did about 15 drafts and I was in like 13 of them, so that's a good amount. We do like 2-3 drafts a day.
You could even argue that the drafts in this house are going to be tougher than the Pro Tour drafts. So, well, a mix of both playing and watching is ideal because you get to stand behind somebody and watch from their perspective and see what they do and how they value the cards differently. And then later in the day, you get to try it out for yourself. So it's important both to get the experience firsthand and to look at things from as many different perspectives as possible.
Well, speaking of the Pro Tour, the pre-Pro Tour sprint, I used to like to settle on a deck maybe 3 weeks before a Pro Tour. Now you're looking at, most formats are very fleshed out, and a couple of discoveries can change your choice quite a lot. So if you have your deck figured out 3 days before the Pro Tour, that's wonderful nowadays.
Oftentimes you show up excited about some deck and then it turns out after a couple days, maybe I shouldn't have been too excited about that deck, and as time goes on, a consensus sort of builds.
Well, usually I settle on my deck around probably 3 hours before the tournament. And that's including like during my sleep, I still thinking about it like while I'm like half asleep. So I never really know for sure. I can always audible.
I don't really care about how close to the Pro Tour I cut it. You feel better when you have your deck settled. Whether it's the right decision or not is obviously a different question, right? So it's awesome when you have your deck settled 4 days before and you think you have the best deck. That's great. But of course, sometimes if you settle on your deck 4 days before, there's a different deck that if you hadn't settled on, you would have got into. And in those instances, I'd rather settle on 2 days before, a day before, and have the absolute, right deck.
Minutes before the Pro Tour starts will be the time in which you have the most information. The sooner you pick a deck that you want to play, the more time you have to learn it inside and out and have the best version of that deck. So it's tough to find a balance between picking the best deck and being really well practiced with your deck. I usually try to know my deck about 3 days in advance. That's what I would hope for.
That's like maybe one of my weakest points, is that I get emotionally attached to decks. I make like poor decisions in this area. You'll always see me like 8:55 a.m. in the tournament room just scribbling on my deck list, my last few sideboard cards.
I've had bad experiences where if you come up with a deck the night before, maybe your main deck is a good strategy, but you go into the tournament and you play and you almost know ahead of time you're not going to have the right sideboard.
Before I joined the Pantheon, I was really committed to choosing my deck early. With the Pantheon, that's a little bit different because there's so many great minds learning at such a fast rate that you want to leave yourself open to, choosing a last-minute deck if somebody finds something really great.
About this time, 2 or 3 days before the Pro Tour, people usually have it narrowed down to 1, 2, 3 choices.
I am currently between 2 decks, and we're 2 days before the Pro Tour. Actually, we're 3 days before the Pro Tour. Yeah, 3 days. Maybe in one more day I'll have my deck chosen.